My name is Glen Bot, and I played forward on the 1954 Milan State Championship team. When Bob Plum for Christmas got a basketball and a bank board and hung it up on the smokehouse behind his house, we went over and started shooting and playing there at behind Plum's before we moved over to Schroeder's store. In 1953, with the state runner-up team, no one from Pierceville had won a varsity letter. And then 3 of the 4 Pierceville Alley Cats won that letter in '53. And 60 years later, I don't think that we still know what don't realize what accomplishments we have, just because of the, otherwise, you know, we're sitting here 60 years after we won the state championship and still being recognized throughout the world. The town was excited. We started up at the high school and had a parade down here, and they had all kinds of people. They come from all over the world to come in here to see where Milan's at, because we were the inspiration for that movie, Hoosiers. I think the reason why the movie was so successful, and Milan then in particular, was that we were playing for all the small schools who never had a chance to get there. When we got back into town, they put us on a couple flatbeds that were put together and introduced everybody and sea of people. And his coach's wife, Mary Lou, got up and said a few things, and then she kind of turned to us and said, "Well, fellas, I want you to remember this, if nothing else." She says, "It's nice to be important, but more important to be nice." And we have that banner here in the museum, and I think most of us have lived by that.
Hello, my name is Ray Kraft. I was a senior starting guard on the 1954 Milan State Championship team. Every small town had a school and a basketball team, and when we went to the county tourney, if you won the county tourney, then you had the bragging rights for another year. I think the 52-53 season was a key to us winning the state championship. And I think it was very important for the team and the coaches to get to the state finals. When we got to the state finals, we played South Bend. They beat us soundly, so I think that was a wake-up call to the players and the coaches. The night of the game, I guess what I remember is there was again 15,000 screaming fans, about 1,000 of them for Muntz and about 14,000 for Milan, and rooting for the underdog. Yes, it was a big deal. One, it was a big deal because we went there 2 years in a row. 1 year we didn't win and 1 year we won. And we beat a perennial state champion in Muntz when we won the state championships. I think that's the biggest lesson that you could give to athletes in any sport, you know. Dedicate yourself to being the best you can in that sport. And that means sacrifice. You're going to have to be willing to sacrifice some activities maybe that you would want to do and put time in on the sport that you're trying to excel at. Winning the state championship changed my life and the direction of my life, as well as a lot of other players on the team, because most of them would not have been able to go to college financially. I think it changed the attitude in Milan about other students, where they were capable of going to college and succeeding.
My name is Rowland Cutter. I was a guard forward on the 1954 state championship basketball team. Coach Wood, when he came in, there were 73 boys in high school. 58 of them came out for basketball. That's how important basketball was to all of those people. I was excited to make the ball team. I was excited to be part of that group because I knew what they had accomplished, and I knew what was in store. You know, I guess what it took to be there. I think the entire town the night before was at the ball game because they brought in a police force and they brought in the fire department to watch over the town while everybody was in Indianapolis. But the experience of the crowd, it was exciting. And yet we had a job to do, and our job wasn't done until those two ball games were played. And yet it was my birthday that day. I was 16 years old that day, and it was exciting to feel the sounds, if you will, the deafening sounds of when Bob hit that last shot. It was almost, you just have a deafening sound to the point of you never hear that very often. We all understood what a state championship in Indiana would be, okay? And of course, being from Milan and all these years, we understand it's a great accomplishment. At that time, I'm not sure what we realized we had accomplished. Basketball back then was a statewide thing, and Milan was just, at that time, it's a fairy tale to a lot of people. Let's go find out where these people are and who these people are and where they are.
Hi, I'm Kenny DeLappe, a guard on the 1954 state champion team. When I was growing up, I enjoyed very much playing basketball. I lived close to Bob and Roger and Glenn and Gene White. We all lived within a mile area of each other. We played together quite a bit, and it was enjoyable and learned a lot from them. Yeah, basketball in Milan, that was the main thing. You know, everybody turned out on Friday and Saturday nights just to root the teams on, and it was a great thing. When I was a junior, I played on the starting five of the reserve team, and at the end of the season, I assumed that Coach Woods decided that I'd had a good year, and so he decided to put me on the varsity roster. Going into the final game, that, you know, everybody, the way the season had gone, I think we only lost 2 games that year, and everything seemed like it was falling in place throughout each and every game. And one game, you know, would bring on another one, and came to the final game, and we was lucky enough to win it. As you know, Milan was in a stall, and they set up this play, and Bobby hit the final shot, and everybody went crazy. Well, it was a giant celebration. I mean, it was something that Ripley County will never see again, you know, to see the line of cars from here to Sunman and all the people yelling and screaming and welcoming the team back to town. It was unreal. Well, just to look up at all the memorabilia and all the teams' lockers and all the jerseys from the Hoosier movie, and it just, you know, inspires young kids that maybe someday I can do something like this.
Hi, I'm Bob Engel. I'm one of the boys from the 54 state champs team. I played guard, I played forward, and I really enjoyed playing all the different positions, like all the boys did. But different places we played a lot of basketball. And we started at a young age, and some of the older gentlemen that played against us, they always told us, don't cut no corners, play the game, have the good fundamentals. That's number one on the agenda. We could go with the best of them to make a difference, rebounding or whatever it was, we could do it. And that's how tough we got, because each guy could play the other position if he had to. We got into the finals, and that's when we got beat in the afternoon game by South Bend Central. So they went on that night to become the state champs. So for us to come back the next year and get all the marbles on the table and become the state champs in '54 was no fluke. You have a team, you don't have just 5 players and a coach. You got some other boys sitting there on the bench, but we're all on the same team and we loved and played together. And if you ask any of them today, they'll tell you the same thing. We're still like brothers, period. The overall picture for all of us is of what is here is fantastic. When you look around in here, you see all the jerseys and trophies and everything that has been accumulated. To think that this is what really took place.
Hi, I'm Bill Jordan, and I was a member of the '54 championship team. I was a junior. I played guard. I think we started when we were about the 6th grade to kind of all play together. I think we won a majority of our grade school games. So we were like a little unit. And my sophomore year was the first year that we went to the state tournament. That was like almost what I would consider an out-of-body experience, because here we are, this little unit again, going to the state tournament. Well, we didn't win it, and people thought that that was the miracle. And I remember someone saying, we want all the ball team and the cheerleaders and to come up here and it was like not a big group of people, but it was a modest, showing from the town of Milan. And I remember I was so touched by the fact that someone had said, you guys really put Milan on the map. Regarding the movie, it has certainly kept the fire going in terms of the exposure that we have all had for 60-some years. I think the greatest thing that can happen from the museum is that young people can come, old people can come, people that are older might think I've got to see this. And of course, younger people who may not have even heard of Milan or this Cinderella basketball team can somehow get some inspiration for their own lives. I'm most happy that I can say that growing up in Milan was a blessing, and it will continue to be a blessing.
Hello everyone, my name is Bobby Plum. I was a guard on the 1954 Milan High School team that won the state tournament. It is hard to describe today the importance to a small community what basketball meant back then, because it was an identity. We had a 1,000-seat gymnasium in a town of 1,100. We had 1,000 season ticket holders. They only gave us, I think it was 500 tickets for the state tournament. When we were in grade school, everybody went to the county tourney, and I can remember thinking, my goodness, if I could just be good enough to get a uniform and sit on the bench for the varsity, my life would be complete. We didn't have maybe the best talent out of the 10 or 12 players, but I truly believe, because of Marvin Wood and because of some of the attitudes that we had the best team in the tournament in both 53 and 54. One of the reasons a lot of people remember that final game is the fact that I did stand there for 4 minutes and 17 seconds in the fourth quarter, and we're down 2 points.
Bobby Plum dribbling, 6 seconds. Plum going down, jump, shoots from the circle, scores! Now 1 second, the game's over.
That game was important, all right? And as far as instantaneous thrills, there's nothing like it. But the real important thing of 53 and 54 is this. Not only did it give me an opportunity. But 10 of the 12 of us, 2 alternates, went to college. 6 of them, as you know, ended up coaching. But more importantly than that, it filtered down to all of the students at Milan.
Hi, I'm Roger Schroeder. I was a guard on the 1954 Milan State Championship basketball team. Basketball in the 50s and before that was highly emphasized in the state of Indiana. It was the thing to do on Friday night and Saturday night, or maybe a Tuesday night through the week. People got together, it was a social gathering, you found out what everybody was doing, and of course you wanted to beat that neighboring town because it was our little franchise against their franchise, just like in the NBA now, except it was towns that were 5, 10, 15 miles apart, but there was bragging rights involved. They talk about 54 being the Milan miracle, but 53 was the miracle part of our playing. So from there, and then we won the Rushville Regional and went to the semi-state in Indianapolis and won that, and then we lost in the afternoon game against South Bend Central, who won the state championship that year. But just to look around there, and the place was packed, and basically everybody was for Milan except for the Muncie Central crowd, the underdog effect. So it was a neat experience, no doubt about that.
Kraft, crisscross the backboard to Kraft. Kraft takes back to Plum. Plum on the corner court to Engel. Back to Plum.
I think we were expecting to win because that's kind of the feeling that we had all along. We didn't expect to lose. We didn't lose very often, and we didn't really think about that. We just played to win. We played and we went out and did our best. And I don't think the thought ever crossed anybody's mind. And when the ball went through the net, I looked over at the clock, and there were 3 seconds left, and I felt like everything was going to be okay. We've had a reunion year after year ever since that time, and guys talk about, wonder what it'll be like next year. And it was still around, and people still thought about it from time to time, but the movie Hoosiers is the one that brought it to the nation and to the world.
I remember Ron. Of course, I came there in the 4th grade, and so we were all in the same grade from then on up and played junior high ball. But Ron was always one of the taller ones.
Well, Ronnie was really a good guy. I really liked him. He got along with everybody. He was a good player, of course. Everybody will tell you that.
Pierceville versus Milan was sort of an athletic competition. But when we hit junior high, why we all got together, and both Ron and Engel, I would say in the 7th grade, were better basketball players than any of the rest of us.
Ronnie Truitt just took things in even keel. I mean, he never seemed to get mad, upset on the court.
When we were playing Muncie Central and we got down a little bit right at the end, we had to put on a full court press. He was one of the guys that stole a pass, so he was alert, a good rebounder.
When we graduated, Houston University tried to get one player off our team. It was Ron Truitt. I think because he was the tallest. So I think that's sort of launched him, because once he got his degree in Houston, he eventually turned into a heck of a coach and won a state championship. His lifestyle certainly improved, and he became sort of a legend, I think, in the Houston area.
When he went on to win a state championship on his own, and then he became the AD, and all the kids loved him around there. And that's when they decided, and they built a new junior high school and named it Ronnie Truitt Junior High School. And I thought, now that is very, very good to do that for him. But he earned it.
Well, the only time I saw him was when he came back when they had the premiere of the movie Hoosiers. He came back for that. So he just was happy-go-lucky and glad to see everybody. And
Basketball, I believe, saved Ronnie Truitt. I know it got him a scholarship, but of all of us, I think he probably took as much advantage of his skills, not just on the basketball court, but his social skills in being able to coach, go into administration, and have a school named after him.
My name is Ken Wendelman. I played center, forward, ball chaser, and zone defense. I think there was 13 boys in the class, and 7 of them were basketball players. Woody was marvelous. He was a fine coach. Too bad he's gone. Coach Kelly said I had more athletic ability than anybody on the team. He's my buddy, Coach Kelly. After you once get on the floor, you forget about the crowds. I didn't even hear the crowds when I was on the floor. I just out there to do my job, and I did it. I was in the game when it was over. We won the game 32-30. Plum made the last shot. He held the ball for a long time, and then he made his move and shot a jump shot, and it went in.
10 seconds, 9 seconds. Bobby Plum dribbling, 6 seconds. Plum going down, jump, shoots from the circle, scores!
And I was down in the corner playing defense and going for rebounds. I know I got a kiss from one of the cheerleaders. There was thousands of people. This highway was lined all the way back to Sunman, both sides with automobiles. The movie was a great movie, had good actors. Gene he did a good job. It was a good game. Muntz played a good game, and so did Milan. We just played a better game.
My name is Gene White. I played center for the 1954 basketball team at Milan. We started out with a new coach, of course, and for a few games, I would say we struggled getting an identification. We had a decent record. We won the county tournament, but Milan had been winning the county tournaments with some regularity at that time. So we were just another Milan team, I guess. Everything he explained to us, he demonstrated it. And we'd played for an older coach up until then, and that really was impressive for me. I don't know about the other fellows, but when he said, for instance, you block out and here's how you do it, all of a sudden we saw how it was supposed to be done as well as what it was. Butler Fieldhouse was overwhelming when it was empty, but when the crowd filled it, it becomes another gymnasium that's full. And I don't think I ever played in my years that I started. I don't ever remember playing in front of anything but a full house. Now, some of them only held 500 people, and that held 15,000. But you know, the crowd disappears when you're playing. We started out very hot in that game. Ray Kraft was unstoppable. And we got ahead, and I think when that happened in the first quarter right away, that sort of took care of it for the rest of us, because we saw, hey, wait a minute, this team, Muntz, they're just another ball club. And there were cars backed up a significant number of miles, and people were walking to get to town because they couldn't move their cars. But I think being young kids, we just thought that probably was the way it was when you won the state, you know. Since then, we found that maybe that was a bit unique.
I'm Bob Wishman. My position on the team was center, and that was a 1954 team that went on to win the state championship. Moved here in the summer of 1953, right after the team had completed their first visit into the finals. I remember well when we first day here, Bill Jordan came by the house, picked me up, toured me around town, and said, We want to invite you to a little scrimmage out at Pierceville tonight. And I appreciated that. They had, most of the team was there. When you think back at that time, there was like nearly 700 teams that were competing for the state championship. And for Milan to rise to that level, to take it all, you have to have a team that functions well together, like one another. I think it still shows in the annual reunions that take place even today. Now, Woody used to put me on Bobby a lot because I was tall, and he thought it'd be good to have the experience of some tall guy guard Bob, and so I knew his moves fairly well. I just kind of knew when he took off on his move that it was going to go in. I knew exactly where I thought he was going to go, and he went that direction and put the winning shot in. And I think what made Milan so special was that you take Bob Plum and Butt and Cutter, Ray Kraft. I mean, they had been playing together for some time. They were talented ball players to begin with. There was a camaraderie among the team that I think also makes it special when teams go beyond the limit, so to speak, and achieve stardom out on the courts.